Okay, hi humans. Someone asked me about seasickness. And, I never noticed any information about seasickness in the medical books, although I've certainly read about people being seasick in novels, Chinese novels, or, other types of motion sickness. So I did a little research. Let's see. There we go. So the term for seasickness is this yunquan, which means literally boat, dizzy boat, basically. But it's also used to mean motion sickness of other types, even if you're not on a boat. There's another term, yun cha, which is like car sickness or cart sickness, because the word cha was used before there were cars, but when there were carts and stuff like that. So, riding in a cart could be pretty bumpy. Also, I've definitely read in novels and so forth that when somebody's riding in a sedan chair, also known as a palanquin, that a lot of times people would get motion sickness. So that's, when there's this little room that people carry on their shoulders and you're inside. So, rich people would travel in them sometimes if they didn't want to ride a horse, or women might travel in them because you could close the curtains and keep privacy for the women. But they also would make the person claustrophobic and sometimes give motion sickness. So there can be a separate term for that, but also this boat dizziness or seasickness was used, for any kind of motion sickness. So these are the words I used in my search. And so there's this huge searchable collection of texts in Chinese on Chinese medicine historical texts. It's called Jicheng. I think it's from Taiwan. And like looking for the term boat dizziness, seasickness, there were only four hits in it. Wow. It wasn't like something that they talked about a lot in medical books. There were zero hits for car or cart dizziness. And so, there wasn't a lot of research I could do. But of the four hits for boat sickness, two were just like a mention that weren't anything enlightening for us. But two of them had something that, we could work with. So if you know some other term that I don't know the right term to search for, let me know in the comments, because if there is a better term, then I can search again and see if I can find more information. But this is what I have to work with today. So, Mingyi, no, Xu Mingyi Lei An is this additional um, cases organized by category from famous doctors. And it's a Qing Dynasty book, kind of a second in a series. There was a Ming Dynasty book called Mingyi Lei An, or categorized cases from famous doctors. Excuse me. So this was like, the next dynasty, somebody's found a lot more cases and put them in a book. I will say, even though this case involves seasickness, it's not really a seasickness case. But let's see what we have here. A doctor named Zhang, treated a woman who her chief complaint was chest fullness and fever. Her six pulses were wiry, rapid, and forceless. So six pulses, three on each side. Okay, that's how they talked about them in, the old books. She appeared weary. She was thirsty but didn't drink much. So he asked her what's up, and she said, I've been seasick since I visited Tiger Hill, which is this famous place in Suzhou. And so she visited like a tourist, this Tiger Hill, and she vomited, and then she sweated, and then she had a fever and a headache. So some other doctor gave her a dispersing prescription, to like move chi and blood, disperse dampness, whatever, that kind of stuff. So she took 4 doses of it. And then her chest and diaphragm became even more inflated, kind of like distension. Yeah. So I vomited and felt dizzy whenever I smelled food. And this fever continued and didn't go away. So another doctor, or the same doctor, said no porridge, no food, half a month ago. So I only drink 3 or 4 cups of tea a day. She's not even eating, she's just drinking tea. Now my bones and flesh all over my body are painful, and I feel dizzy and vomit whenever I move around. And the term that's for moving around is literally turning to the sides, but it colloquially means just moving around, moving about, doing things. But I point out that it literally means turning to the sides because that reminds me of Shaoyang. Xiaoyang is the pivot. Xiaoyang is turning to the side. Xiaoyang, channels are on the sides of the body. So that may have something to do with it. Okay. And so, yeah, this Tiger Hill, this Huqiu, is a famous site in Suzhou. It has lots of historical buildings on it. And it was, a place where people went sightseeing even hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And there's a district in Suzhou that's named after it. And in this part of China, especially in Suzhou, there's so many waterways and canals and so much boat transportation, which might be easier than traveling overland. So even though she said seasickness and seasickness could be used for other types of motion sickness, there's a good chance it could really be, from being in a boat. Um, okay. So Dr. Zhang said, your sweating and vomiting when exposed to wind was due to external contraction. Okay, so she got a wind attack. But that was then, now is now, it's gone. Vomiting means that food has been lost. So how can you use dispersing herbs when you're not taking in food? That's going to disperse the spleen and make it even more deficient. Spleen deficiency results in severe distension. That inflation was the word that she used. Her chest felt inflated. When the spleen is cut off from food, there's vomiting. When earth is controlled by wood, there's dizziness. But, your spleen is so weak after not eating for 2 weeks, you shouldn't take herbs. What you need to do is drink rice drink. And then when you're a little stronger, to take zhou, to take rice porridge, to let spleen earth regain its function. So what is rice drink? It's kind of like porridge, but really, really thin. It's just like, if you made rice porridge even thinner, so it was just like a drink rather than like it's not thick like oatmeal or a thick soup. This is just, rice water. Um, Okay, so you should just take rice drink in the beginning and later porridge so that spleen earth can regain its function. And now we can talk about herbs. So she followed his advice and she recovered without taking any medicine. She didn't even need medicine. She just needed to get her spleen back on track. Okay, so that's not very satisfying about motion sickness, but that's the only case I found, and there really wasn't much information otherwise about it. But I found 2 formulas. These formulas are from a different Ming Dynasty, from a Ming Dynasty book published in 1520 by somebody named Wan Biao. And so there are 2 formulas here. Of course, if you're interested, you could pause the video and write down the formula. So here's a Jiawei Shengjiang Li Tang. So you probably know Li Tang, which is a formula that's likely to have ginseng and baijiu and ganjang in it, the main formula, but this is a jiaowei formula, so it's a modified formula. And then it has xiangjiang fresh ginger. But actually, when you look at it, there's no fresh ginger mentioned. The bancha is ginger processed. The ganjang, of course, is ginger, but not fresh ginger. So it's kind of confusing, this name. But it treats deficiency cold stomach qi. So, stomach, spleen, stomach yang deficiency with occasional nausea. And also, it says it treats that dizzy boat condition, boat dizziness, seasickness. Okay, and so, ginseng, baijiu, ganjiang, dried ginger, bancha, and chenpi. So, it's got um, these herbs for the nausea part. Anyway, boil in water and take it. So there, if you're looking for a seasickness formula, he has one other formula which is called Da Bancha Tang. That almost sounds like a Shanghan Lun formula or Jingui Yaolui formula, but apparently it's not. And if you look up this formula on the internet or, in a herb book, there are a couple different formulas by this name, but it seems like this mainly has what was it? I think bancha, fresh, no, sorry, bancha, ginseng, and honey. But it's still a decoction. Anyway, so this is a different formula than the main one I found on the internet. It treats nausea and also treats seasickness. So again, we have chenpi and bancha, which we saw in the previous one, and then fuling. So, of course, the bunch has ginger processed. They didn't specify an amount. It's probably equal portions of each, and then boil in water and take it. That should settle your stomach. Again, treats nausea and also seasickness. So, I don't have a lot of information for you about seasickness, but this is what I found. So, there you have it.